I have a 19-year-old son who has Tourette's syndrome. He's got anxiety disorder, generalized depression. When the symptoms first started, automatically denial. My husband is very traditional, so a lot of denial on his part. That's behavioral issues, don't worry about it, it'll pass. My mother-in-law believed that if you could rub an egg over them or sweep them with a broom, that this would all go away. For me to step out and to seek treatment for the children was against their norm and against their culture. I was very concerned and very worried, but kept it to myself. I felt like people would look down on us, that we had behavioral issues with our kiddos that we couldn't fix ourselves. Maybe I was doing something wrong. Maybe it was our parenting skills, because I didn't want to admit that it could be a mental illness, even though I felt like it was. People don't understand mental illness. People don't see mental illness as a form of illness, period. It makes people very uncomfortable to talk about what's going on in my family. So I tend to keep it to myself. My son doesn't have any friends. No matter how clear he is now or how well he is now, that stigma has stayed with him, because people don't see mental illness as truly as what it is. It's the same to me as somebody diagnosed with cancer or heart disease. Society doesn't view it that way, for whatever reason. It's very difficult to find your way through the system. You're pretty much left on your own. You're not well versed in the system of psychiatric care. You don't know, well, what's the next step? And then sometimes you're afraid to ask friends. Nobody talks about it. So there's no one really to relate to of what are your resources? Who have you, what do you think? If the word was out there that there are support groups, that there is help and that you can ask, parents wouldn't have to go through what we went through, which is nights of crying and nights of not sleeping and being at home with no answers and wondering if we're doing the right thing. When you start talking about mental illness, it's almost like the doors are closed. And you got to know the secret code to get in there. There is so much hope. When I got to the treatment, it was when they came in and began to talk to me about all the options and all the things they could do for him, I just sat there and cried, because it was like all my answers that I needed were here all the time, but no one showed me the way. And I was able to just sit there and tell them about, a couple of years of things that have gone on with him. I remember going home the night after I left that first day and sleeping better than I had slept in years, and knowing that I was in the right place. We had finally found that that key to unlocking that door of what we had been living with by ourselves for so long. So things at home are peaceful, but we've got a plan. We know what we're doing. It's such a relief. We live a hard life, but you learn to deal with it and you just accept it. And I just wish everybody had the education and the knowledge to know it's okay. I wish I'd have gotten help sooner, because I think a lot of those years of anxiety and crying and just our stubbornness of this can't be happening to us, and being able to step up and say, yeah, it is happening, and you know what? Our family is just as enriched and full as anybody else's, and we can get through this, but you have to have help. And we could never do this by ourselves. It's such a relief to be able to talk about it and get that feedback and that reassurance that you're not the only one. We're going to get you through this. This is the way it's supposed to be. And that, we know there's professional help and not old wives' tales. I really believe if we hadn't have gotten counseling for the kiddos and our family therapy and counseling, we would have been divorced. Kids that don't get treatment commit suicide, or they wind up in jail, or they're homeless, or they're on the street somewhere. If they don't go to school, they drop out of school. If we could speak freely about mental health or mental illness, kids would stay in school. Kids would get up and look for jobs and not feel like they're less than anybody else. It just gets put down to the bottom. And they're the ones that need help the most. The community needs to rally up around it, because it's just a horrible place that we're in with our kiddos.